Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a story that sounds, well, almost unbelievable. We're talking about a White House proposal that has put an 80-year-old military alliance on a direct collision course with its most powerful member. Yeah, you heard that right.
So let's just jump right in. That statement you see, that's coming directly from the White House press secretary. It's a pretty stark warning, basically putting a NATO ally on notice, and they're not being subtle about it. Military action is explicitly on the table for the U.S. to take control of Greenland. I mean, this just begs the question, right? An American invasion of a Danish territory? How on earth did we get here? We're talking about two founding members of NATO. And yeah, sure, American interest in Greenland isn't brand new. The U.S. actually tried to buy it way back in 1946. But this is totally different. This is the first time that offer has come with, a military threat attached.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this all blew up so fast, let's start with the official line coming from the White House.
So here's the official reasoning. The administration is calling the acquisition of Greenland a top national security priority. Why? Well, two big reasons. First, it's a strategic move to push back against Russia and China, who are getting more and more active in the Arctic. Second, Greenland is sitting on a ton of valuable minerals. And you gotta see this in context, right? This is happening right after other pretty aggressive moves, like the recent detention of Venezuela's leader.
But here's where it gets a little strange. There's this fascinating contradiction. On one hand, you have these military threats being thrown around. But on the other hand, lawmakers are being told that the administration's preferred option is, well, it's just a simple real estate deal. Just buy the island from Denmark. It's a bit of whiplash, isn't it?
So you can probably guess how this strange mix-up "we'll buy it" and "we might take it" went over in Greenland and Denmark. Spoiler alert, not well. Their response was, let's just say it was fast and crystal clear.
And this slide really just lays out the core of the problem, doesn't it? You have the US saying this is a vital national security move. Then you have Denmark saying a forced takeover would literally destroy NATO and tear up 80 years of security ties. They are on completely different planets here.
And the folks in Greenland? Their response was even more direct. The Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen, didn't beat around the bush at all. He said, the island is not for sale, period. And he made it clear that only the people who live there get to decide their future.
And let's just pause on that number for a second. 57,000. In the middle of this massive geopolitical chess game, with global powers and strategic territory on the line, it all comes down to the future of just 57,000 people. It really puts it all in a perspective.
And it's not just the politicians. That feeling of just sheer disbelief, it was echoed by business leaders on the ground. You get this sense of genuine shock that here we are in the 21st century and their home is being talked about like it's a piece of property on a game board, something to be won or taken.
Okay, so this whole thing didn't stay a private dispute between Washington and Copenhagen for long. Nope. As the news got out, key European allies started to sit up, take notice, and weigh in.
And we're talking about the heavy hitters here. The UK, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, all 6 of them put out this really powerful joint statement. And listen to this. They didn't just say, we support Denmark. They made a point of defending the universal principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. I mean, that's a message aimed squarely at their American ally, no doubt about it.
You even had leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron trying to pour some cold water on the whole thing. He basically framed the threat as, well, as just unthinkable. Like this is such a fundamental breach of how allies are supposed to act, that it couldn't possibly be real. A real attempt to de-escalate things.
But here's what's maybe even more surprising. The pushback wasn't just coming from overseas. Right back home in Washington, this idea was hitting a brick wall of opposition. And get this, it was coming from both sides of the aisle.
On the Democratic side, the criticism was immediate and fierce. You had Senator Ruben Gallego, who not only shot down the whole strategic argument, but went a step further, vowing to introduce an official resolution to block any kind of military move on Greenland.
And this is what's really wild. The reaction from members of the president's own party. Republican Congressman Don Bacon. I mean, he did not hold back. He called it really stupid. That is a level of blunt, public criticism you just don't see very often directed at a sitting president from someone in their own party.
And it wasn't just one or two rogue voices either. We're talking about key Republican leaders who publicly shot this down. You have the Speaker of the House saying it's not appropriate. You have a senior senator on the Intelligence Committee flat out warning it would mean the end of NATO. So this opposition from inside the party was serious and pretty widespread.
So let's talk about that phrase for a second, the end of NATO. We've heard it from Danish officials, and we've heard it from American lawmakers. So why? Why are so many people on both sides of the Atlantic warning that this one single issue could completely unravel the most successful military alliance in modern history?
Well, the whole answer, the whole reason this is so explosive comes down to one single rule, one clause right at the very heart of the alliance that has been the absolute bedrock of Western security for 80 years.
And here it is, Article 5. It's the principle of collective defense. It's super simple, but incredibly powerful. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. That's it. That's the glue that has held NATO together through the Cold War, through everything.
So here's the doomsday scenario. A U.S. military move on Greenland. Well, Greenland is Danish territory. Denmark is a NATO member. That means an attack on Greenland is an attack on Denmark, which would trigger Article 5. That would legally require every other NATO member, Canada, the UK, France, Germany, to defend Denmark from the United States. It's an impossible, alliance-shattering paradox. The whole thing would just collapse in on itself. There's no way it could survive that.
And so that leaves us with this one, really unsettling final question. What we're watching here isn't a conflict between old enemies. It's a conflict between an 80-year-old alliance built on trust and mutual defense, and a brand new, very assertive ambition. So when those two things collide, what gives first?